Hi guys, I hope you've had a great weekend. We had a fun time celebrating Mother's Day, and now I'm going to get you your lesson for next week. Okay, so for next week, we're going to start putting together some of the things that you've been working on with a little more personal twist on it. So you've practiced some basic skills, we've used some fairly generic objects, and now it's time for you to start putting those pieces together and setting up something with things that you like. So first, we're just going to look at some basic principles of composition. So composition basically creates a path through your through the picture for your eye, and your job as the artist is to direct the viewer's eye. Didn't know you could do that, right? Okay, so but you can. This is part of your job. So, one of the things that a lot of artists use is called the rule of thirds, and what basically that means is put things on, these quadrants right here that are a third of the way in from each side. It's like a pretty good sweet spot for having your focal point. What you want to avoid for a focal point is something dead center or right on the corners or on the edges. Every rule in art is made to be broken, but learn the rule first and figure out how to really make a compelling composition, and then you can work on playing with a lot of things that will let you break those rules or use them in your own way. You may or may not have heard of the golden mean. It's based on pi, the ratio 3.14, right? And a lot of artists and designers use that principle. They feel it's found all throughout nature in different forms, and they use that as a compositional tool for their artwork. It's a way to break up space. You can do it really mathematically and scientifically. Most of us as fine artists and illustrators, we tend to do that a little bit intuitively. You train yourself to see good composition and then train yourself to make good composition and learn what that looks like. Now, there's some artists that say that's not a thing, no such thing as that, and that's totally fine. I kind of look at the people that are using it super effectively, like advertisers. They have figured out how our brains are wired to really use visual language well. So that tells me that there is a compelling way to arrange things visually. A lot of people say that composition is one of those things that you either have it or you don't. It can't necessarily be taught. They say that about color sometimes too. I kind of beg to differ on both of those. I'm too much of an optimist. So I think if you practice making good compositions and you look at good compositions, you have a great shot at becoming an excellent composer. So once again, here's this little shape there, and you can see these are areas where you would put your focal point. So what is your focal point? Again, that is something that you decide. For me, if I'm painting a landscape, I think of it this way, like, where do I want to be in that picture, right? So where am I trying, like, where's the spot that I want to be? And then I make everything kind of lead into that. So the focal point, the way you're going to draw the eye to that spot, once you've decided what your picture's about and where you want to take your viewer's eye, the way you get their eye there is through having the highest contrast, the most differences in shapes, the intersecting lines and different textures, and as you get into color, that will also include different colors and different temperatures of colors. So it's just going to be the area with the highest interest, the highest amount of differences in that picture. So we practice developing compositions using thumbnail sketches. These are little sketches. It's a little bigger than my thumbnail, but they are still little. These are used in two ways. You can create a thumbnail sketch before you go to your reference. Norman Rockwell did that often. He would have these ideas and he would create thumbnail sketches, and then he would go out and gather references and refine these ideas. And then there's the other way to do it is, as like, let's say you set up a still life here and then you're trying to decide on your angle or your lighting. So you do some thumbnails of that situation. So you're doing thumbnails right from life. So those are the two ways that you can use thumbnails. And then once you've done that, you kind of decide on your more finished piece. So I want you to do at least 3 thumbnails this week. More would be great, right? More is always better. So practice developing your compositions using simple shapes. You can just make a bunch of simple shapes and practice arranging them in these little squares. Okay. And then things to avoid in composition. This is called a tangent. That's an eye stopper. Basically, that's two objects that just meet right up, right? These guys don't overlap. There's no space between them. They are just right next to each other, okay? The other thing to avoid is any kind of awkward cropping. So for the human figure, where's my feet? Don't crop on any joints. That just really creates some awkwardness. And don't cut things in half. That goes for people or objects, right? Am I in or am I out? Avoid taking lines directly to corners. So if this was a little path or some kind of design, don't take it right to the corner. Once again, you've just led your viewer right out of your picture and onto somebody else's picture. Let's see. And then have some difference in where things are organized spatially on your page. So for instance, these are all on the same plane. They don't demonstrate perspective or form at all. They're just in a line. It's like, this is awkward. So let's just look at what that looks like real quick. So for arranging your composition, I'll show you a couple fun little things. Pick things that are different. These books have this fun ruggedy texture. I love old books for that reason. They're just incredibly fun to draw and render and paint. And then this is kind of shiny and smooth. So those work well together. And then there's this one, again, that's different. So you could practice setting these things up in a way that is compelling. One of the things that still life artists, and then your lighting becomes a compositional tool and a compositional element as well. So a lot of times you could put things in all the wrong places on your page, but because you've skillfully used your lighting, you've guided the eye exactly where you want it to go. So don't underestimate the power of light. It's also the great unifying factor in these compositions, right? These are very different objects, but the light has unified them, and I think that's interesting. Okay, so this is a fun thing that you'll see often in still lifes, and that's putting it right over the edge a little bit. And there's something fun that happens in a situation like this, where you have a cast shadow from the book meeting up with a core shadow right here on the table. So those create really fun edges. It's a great way to create some depth in your work. And it's really fun to get to just kind of push some of these things as far as you can and really make interesting, deep compositions. And then you can choose, objects like this that are kind of more traditional still life objects, or you could do a composition setup with, your computer mouse and a charger or some headphones. You could use, I had a ruler over here, I don't know where it went, but you could use something like, masking tape and here it is, and a tape measure and something else. And then when you set them up, if you're setting something up in a line, there's an artist, Wayne Thiebaud, he did this all the time. He did it very well. So again, these rules are made to be broken, right? So you can figure out how to use them in a way that's really compelling. He would just line things up like pieces of cake or cupcakes or whatever it was. It was just always interesting things. And he would just line them up, put the light there, and paint them just like that. So that was kind of interesting. But what I want you guys to practice is, for now, creating some depth in your work, which means, skillfully overlap some things, maybe have one of those carpenter pencils right here, or I don't know, whatever you think of. And practice creating these little pathways for the eye and just seeing how that works. Your drapery can be part of your compositional element. And you could use things like this. I think, Melissa's done a lot with putting in these little bottles there, and that's kind of fun as well. So that is the assignment for this week. Play with composition, have fun. So, pick out 3 objects. Typically, you want to avoid groups of 2. They're kind of static. You want to do 3 or more. And play with arranging those in a way that's interesting. Practice doing some thumbnail sketches. I would aim for doing like 3 little thumbnails a day for the first couple days, and then see what things you like and what you're because this is going to help you start developing your own sense of style and your own sense of what's interesting to you and what's captivating to you. So arrange the objects, 3 thumbnails a day, and maybe by Wednesday, choose one composition that you want to do a longer finished drawing of, and then do a longer finished drawing of that. So that is this week. I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for letting me share with you. And as always, please let me know if you have any questions at all. All right, bye.